Thank you for taking the time to view this bite-sized video on reasonable adjustments for BTEC internal assessments. My name is Sue. I am one of the Vocational Quality Assurance Managers who support quality nominees and vocational staff with the quality assurance requirements of delivering BTEC qualifications. At the start of a programme, the delivery team may be aware that some learners with, for example, known learning difficulties or physical disabilities are entitled to access arrangements for internal and externally assessed units. If approved by Pearson, these arrangements are applicable for all assessments in the qualification they are studying. This is different to reasonable adjustments. Reasonable adjustments are usually agreed at the pre-assessment stage. However, you may have situations that arise during a course where it would be advisable to apply reasonable adjustments. A reasonable adjustment is designed to reduce the effects of disadvantage faced, whilst not providing an assessment advantage over other learners or affecting the integrity of assessment outcomes. We will look at potential reasons where this may need to be considered shortly. Centres are not required to apply to Pearson for reasonable adjustments in internally assessed units. To record strategies applied, the lead internal verifier should complete the RA1 form for BTEC qualifications. This form should be retained with any supporting evidence in the course programme file. Please note, if the unit is selected for standards verification, the RA1 form must be submitted to the standards verifier along with the assessment plan and internal verification documentation. Your lead internal verifier and quality nominee must have oversight of what is happening at programme level by undertaking ongoing monitoring. We therefore recommend that a lead internal verifier informs the centre quality nominee if there are any learners facing significant difficulties who have missed internal assessment, so that the use of reasonable adjustments can be considered and apply where needed. Your centre policy for internal assessments should confirm how and when reasonable adjustments should be applied. Pause the video here for a moment. Looking at the list on the screen, which of these examples do you think would be a case for a reasonable adjustment consideration? Key points that do need to be considered are that each situation should be considered separately, as no learners or situations are exactly the same. How long has the situation had an impact? Is there a need to adjust the assessment method, or would a simple extension be appropriate? Is there medical evidence to support a case for making reasonable adjustments? You can find further information in the JCQ guidance, but let's take a look at these situations. Anxiety and depression. Reasonable adjustments can be made to reduce the impact of an assessment method that may trigger heightened stress for the learner and decrease their opportunity for success. For example, instead of group work or a presentation to the whole class, the learner could present the evidence one-to-one with the assessor, or perhaps if the situation is reversed, they may need a peer support in a presentation. Bereavement. This would be dependent on the situation, such as who was involved, how long ago, and the impact on the learner. In this situation, you may even need to consider the use of an application for special consideration. Broken limb. Could an extension solve the situation, or could an adaptation be made to the assessment method? Or perhaps, is there evidence from an external club that could be used? Disability. For known disabilities, reasonable adjustments should be made from the start of the course and may require JCQ approved access arrangements that will then be taken in the form of their normal way of working. Long-term illness. Again, a possible extension, extending the completion date, or remote working could all be considered. Traumatic past experience. This may apply in a subject that covers sensitive topics, such as child protection or road traffic accidents. If the content of the assessment raises PTSD or trauma for a student, reasonable adjustments may well be required. Pregnancy. Reasonable adjustments here may include extending completion dates, remote working, or adaptations to the assessment method for practical tasks. You will see on the screen some situations are now highlighted. Unauthorised absence and lost work through learner negligence are factors that would not fall under reasonable adjustments and would require your centre to have strategies in place to address these types of situations. Other situations where reasonable adjustments are not acceptable are related to where it is the centre's responsibility to appropriately manage the delivery of the programme, for example, with rules of combination. If incorrect combination of units has been delivered, this is a maladministration issue and would need to be investigated by Pearson. Late starters. Each centre is required to recruit with integrity. If your centre accepts late starts, then accommodations in timetabling and support must be made from the commencement of their programme. Staff shortages need to be addressed through the centre's contingency planning policy. Lost work, where it is not due to negligence of the learner, i.e. through a cyber attack, the centre must report this to Pearson via a Form 15 notification of lost centre assessed work. From the previous slide, you can see that there is a real emphasis on centres supporting learners to overcome any difficulty they may face. Given the nature of internally assessed units within vocational qualifications, there is flexibility in terms of how and when assignments are completed. Here you can see some examples of how you can make reasonable adjustments to the assessment arrangements. Could you extend deadlines, allow independent or remote learning at home? Can parent support assessment? Are after school or lunchtime catch-ups available? Is there tutorial or pastoral support? Or do they need a different assessment method to be offered? There is also the option to source alternative evidence from other units or even from personal hobbies if video evidence or a witness or observation record can be provided. However, you should also consider whether it may be more appropriate for a learner to certificate on a smaller sized qualification at the same level if they have been unable to complete a significant amount of evidence. Or perhaps you may need to extend their estimated completion date. Just to recap, the first important point is that you must agree reasonable adjustments prior to assessment or as soon as the need for an adjustment is identified. Alternatively, apply for special considerations at the time of the occurrence. Let me quickly confirm again what we mean by both of these terms. Special considerations are required to be submitted if all other options to help a learner complete and achieve an outcome for an internal assessment have been exhausted. Like with external special considerations, if an application is approved, the allowance granted will not fully compensate for the unit, but will give a small adjustment and the grade awarded will reflect their real ability rather than potential. The key point here is the service level agreement to review applications for internal assessments is 45 days. A link to a video on special considerations is available to you. A reasonable adjustment is where you can apply alternative forms of assessment or ways in which to support the learner so they are not disadvantaged in internal assessments. The RA1 form is required for this, but there is no formal submission to Pearson. We simply ask that you attach the form to your standards verification sample if that unit is selected. Further guidance can be found in Pearson's Supplementary Guidance for Reasonable Adjustment and Special Considerations in Internal Assessment. We have additional support links for you here on the slide. Pearson has a dedicated team of subject advisors who will be able to provide you with guidance on alternative ways of teaching and assessing your learners. We've created a template on our resources webpage that you can use to record and monitor learners that have reasonable adjustments in place. This will be useful for you if you do have to make an application for special considerations later in the year, as you will have all the information you need as evidence. If you wish to discuss any situation that occurs at your centre, please do reach out to us in the VQAM team. Thank you for watching this short video.